It's Tuesday, December 21st, and this is now on HNN.
That lay out the steps the Vice President and I are taking.
President Biden announces major changes to his COVID-19 winter plan.
If you're not fully vaccinated, you have good reason to be concerned.
The Navy begins filtering tap water, but it could be a while before displaced residents can return home.
Are you sure that after 30 to 45 days that the water will be pristine, back to drinking water standards when it's all said and done?
You don't have to take our advice on that. We're going to prove it.
Plus, information is being sought in the fatal shooting of a monk seal on Molokai. These stories and more coming up on This Is Now.
Good afternoon. Thanks for watching This Is Now. You've got Jonathan and Ashley right here in the H&N Digital Center. Let's get started with those very latest numbers being reported by the State Department of Health.
DOH is reporting 707 new COVID infections today. The breakdown by island shows 647 cases on Oahu, 24 on Maui, 10 on Kauai, 9 on the Big Island, 1 each on Lanai and Molokai, and 15 residents were diagnosed out of state. Now, the Omicron variant is now sweeping across the country, prompting the Biden administration to step up its efforts.
We all want this to be over, but we're still in it. And this is a critical moment. We also have more tools than we ever had before.
Biden just announced he has ordered the military to have medical personnel ready to help hospitals overrun.
That's 1,000 military doctors, nurses, and medics. We've already started moving medical teams. They've already landed in Wisconsin and Indiana this week.
The government is also expanding its vaccination program to include pop-up locations. It is also expanding its testing program by adding federal testing sites and purchasing a 500 million at-home rapid tests to send to Americans for free starting in January.
We'll be getting these tests to Americans for free. And we'll have websites where you can get them delivered to your home.
Now, here at home, discussions are underway on how to address the latest surge we're seeing here in the islands, and plans could include mass booster and testing sites. Now, for more on that, we're joined now by Lieutenant Governor Josh Green. Now, LG, why do you feel, this is the best move right now?
Well, the reason is because whatever we do now to prevent serious illness, especially from Omicron, will save lives in January. So whatever we do this week and next week is going to save a lot of suffering, hospitalization, and death in January and then beyond. So I just got off the phone, for example, with Queen's leadership, and we're looking at ways to expand basically a site so people could quickly go and get a booster, a test if they're headed towards a party or whatever, and then ultimately we'll be able to prescribe medications. This Paxlovid medication is meant to decrease severity of illness, and that will be out in January. So we're even talking about that, ways to get that medication to people efficiently. We are in a really dangerous spot right now, the whole country is, because we had 707 cases today. The positivity rate's at 7%. You'll remember it peaked at about 11% last year. That means cases are going up, up, up. Even if they're not as severe in general, there are going to be a lot of extra hospitalizations if we don't stop this. As of today, we're at 61 people in the hospital total, which is relatively good news because it's just been slowly going up. It's gone up from like the mid 30s 10 days, 2 weeks ago. But it could skyrocket really quickly if people don't have their boosters and they're not protected. So that's why I want these large clinics available. Some people say just go and schedule regularly, but a lot of people need this. They need simplicity, and especially over the holidays when a lot of people out sick, you might not be able to get your doctor or nurse practitioner on the phone. They might be closed for hours. We need something straightforward and simple for people in this space.
Right. The latest numbers we've seen, 22% of people have received their boosters. Why do you think that percentage is so low?
Yes, so it's exactly right. 22.6% of the whole state has had boosters, whereas 73.6% have been fully vaccinated. One reason is a lot of people still aren't at that 6-month period. But also there's fatigue. There's COVID fatigue. People got the 2 shots. It has been deemed a full course of vaccination, fully vaccinated. And now they're being asked again after 6 months to get a booster. Now that's pretty common in medicine to have 3 shots to be a full series of vaccination. But I think people are just exhausted after almost 2 years of this. I will say this, I went and got a booster because it's been a long time since I had my 2nd shot and I didn't want to catch Omicron and end up potentially sick. So it's really important, but we need to double this number of boosters to get ourselves into a much safer spot. If we got to 750,000 boosters, I'd feel a lot better. We're at 321,429 right now. So what I'd like to see is some drive-through clinics on each of the islands. Make it easy for people to get a booster. That's really the main thing. And also tests. The president right now is putting out a plan to do 500 million extra tests. We'll try to incorporate this too. And I will ask for extra appropriations for any of these large vaccination sites. I mean, it's really important to do this.
A lot of people who take the shots and the boosters, they get these really bad, side effects after that knock them out for a day or two. Do you think that might be a reason why people are hesitant too? Because maybe a lot of people can't miss work or just how they feel after they take it?
Yes. So I did send a memo over to the governor asking him to allow people to have time off work, to have essentially 2 days this week and even potentially 2 days next week, right before the Christmas and before the New Year's holidays, to have mass vaccination sites, and then also understanding at the workplace if you can't go. I had about 6 hours of aches after my booster. I understand. You get through it. You take fluids, you take Tylenol, you're fine. But yes, it's more important to avoid hospitalizations. And many of our hospitals are worried, even though right now they're not overflowing, they're pretty full because this is the time of the year when the hospitals are full. If we suddenly have 200 or 300 cases of COVID in the hospital, they're going to be in desperate straits, dire straits. So we're all of the opinion that prevention is the best thing to do, and that means getting your booster. So I'd like to make it easy for our people. I can only make the recommendations and work with people to try to put it into place. But I'd like to see expanded hours. I'd love all of the healthcare providers in the state to expand their hours, and I'd like the government to be supportive with resources so they can do it.
Touching on gatherings and large events, we're seeing a lot of clusters stem from events where a lot of the organizers are doing the right thing, right? They're mandating vaccination or testing, and we're still seeing these, clusters forming. At what point, do we address the gatherings and the events that are happening?
When there's too much pressure on the hospital beds. If the hospital beds are constrained and we can't take care of those who are ill and people who have non-COVID problems but need healthcare, that's when you have to really ratchet down gathering sizes and even pull back from, some of these allowable events. But we're not there yet. As of now, it's 61 people in the hospital. It was 58 yesterday, 53 the day before, 46 and 41. So in 5 days, we went from 41 to 61. That's 50% increase. It's a concern. So we'll watch these numbers really carefully through Christmas and New Year's. If it gets out of control, yes, we'll have to pull back for a time. But the best thing to do to prevent that, forgive me, is to go get a booster shot and get tested. Do a quick rapid test before you go to see your tutu or something, all right? Because if you see him or her, it's going to be rough if you end up giving a relatively mild case for you of Omicron, but someone who's 86, it could be very rough and they'll end up in the hospital and very ill. So be safe, get boosted, get extra tests, and we'll come through it fine. I am confident we'll come through it fine, but it looks like we're going to have another bump before we get out of this.
All right, Lieutenant Governor Josh Green, we appreciate your time so much. Thank you for always sharing your insights. Jonathan, we're going to send it back to you.
New at noon, a hearing for the Navy to contest an order issued by the Department of Health to stop operations at Red Hill has just wrapped up. Here's some of what was said in closing arguments.
One of the things that the board has been doing ever since the 2014 release, the board, in exercising its public trust responsibility to protect this irreplaceable water resource, took a really hard look at this system. And it took a really hard look at this system because it's, close to 200 million gallons of fuel above a sole source aquifer in 80-year-old tanks, an 80-year-old system. Just looking at that specs makes you think, wow, we really have to look at this carefully to make sure that we're not going to do irreparable damage to our aquifer.
Here's where we are. The emergency was realized. The Navy immediately responded by doing all things that you've heard. And because of that, there is nothing happening now or just about to happen that an emergency order needs to deal with. The last release from an underground storage tank was in 2014. And in 2015, the Department of Health, the EPA, the DLA, and the Navy mutually agreed on an AOC, an administrative order on consent, to address that release and to work cooperatively to protect drinking water, the human health, and the environment. The May and November releases were not from a tank farm, or were not from a tank. They were from pipes. And there is good cause to believe, as you heard yesterday, that the two releases are related, because the pipe in the November release was an AFFF pipe, a fire suppression pipe, which shouldn't have been holding fuel, had to have gotten the fuel from somewhere, and most probably got the fuel during the May release. That's under investigation, but that's what we know now.
So no word yet on when a decision will be made in regards to this hearing.
The Navy is opposing any shutdown of the Red Hill fuel tanks and says it can treat the contamination by flushing out its water system. Officials say scrubbing and testing multiple neighborhoods could take 30 to 45 days, which means it may be a while before displaced families can return home. Mahealani Richardson reports.
Navy civil engineers started the cleaning and testing process for 19 so-called flush zones, starting with Pearl City Peninsula.
I was like, wow.
It starts with a system flush, and then experts will flush up to 400 homes per day. The water is drained from fire hydrants, sent through a series of activated carbon filters, and then released onto grass, down storm drains, or taken to wastewater treatment.
They go through these filters and then are returned to the environment in one of several ways.
The Navy says it's filtering water at all neighborhoods along its water line, regardless of whether there's contamination or not. Now, the whole process takes at least 10 minutes, and you'll notice there's a film or grit that's coming out from the water. The Navy says that this is actually activated charcoal from the filters and that it's completely harmless.
The process is part of an agreement by the EPA, the State Health Department, and Army.
When we say the job is done to the Department of Health, it's not just recovery of the drinking water system, but recovery of the wells. And I think that this is a bigger job that's going to take a much longer time.
Are you sure that after 30 to 45 days that the water will be pristine back to drinking water standards when it's all said and done?
You don't have to take our advice on that. We're going to prove it.
But the Board of Water Supply says petroleum doesn't dissolve in water and tends to stick to pipes, while residents are skeptical.
The fairy tales they have told us, our senior leaders for Navy Region Hawaii for the Pacific Fleet, they basically said that it's safe for us to drink the water.
Navy engineers say the water at Pearl City Peninsula comes from the Waiawa Shaft, which they say has no detectable levels of fuel or petroleum and unaffected by the leaks at Red Hill. Still, they're filtering all neighborhoods along the Navy's water line, knowing they've got to restore purity and trust. Reporting from Pearl City, Mahealani Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
The Department of Land and Natural Resources and NOAA are seeking information regarding the death of a monk seal who was shot on Molokai in September. Officials tell us today the Hawaiian monk seal known as L11 died of an intentional gunshot wound to the head on September 19th. Authorities say this is the third intentional killing of a monk seal on the island this year. Anyone with information is asked to call the Doe Care hotline at 808-643-DLNR or use the DLNR tip app. To severe weather now from across the Pacific. The governor of a central Philippines province devastated by Typhoon Rai last week is pleading for the government to quickly send food and other aid. He says without outside help, Army troops and police forces would have to be deployed to prevent looting due to worsening hunger. The typhoon has left at least 375 people dead, and there's more than 50 people still missing.
Heads up for those who are flying out for the holidays. The Transportation Department says all 5 of the state's major airports will have limited parking, so officials recommend getting dropped off at the airport. During Thanksgiving, the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport was nearly at capacity. H&L charges $18 per day for parking. Neighbor island airports max out at $15 for 24 hours. And yesterday marked the 5th day in a row that more than 2 million people passed through TSA. AAA predicts a 184% jump in airline travel. Tom Costello has more on the holiday rush.
Thank you so much. Day 2 of the Christmas week travel rush is now fully underway. Even with the rapid spread of the Omicron variant, many travelers appear undeterred. Some airports now on target for record traffic, including Miami International, projecting 156,000 passengers each day, breaking an all-time holiday record. After foregoing family gatherings last Christmas, many are determined to go this year.
I think as long as you're doing your part and like wearing your mask and getting vaccinated, just being careful, I think that's what matters.
Here in Miami, the American Airlines ramp tower manages more than 700 flights a day, arriving and departing from their gates. Everything from catering to luggage to fueling to maintenance issues, and the occasional plane that is too heavy, like this one at gate 49.
What happens if the plane is too heavy? You have to offload some cargo?
Yeah, if the plane is heavy, typically it all depends. Do we have anything that we can move on the cargo side of the house so that we could put passengers on, and we might ask for volunteers on the passenger side. So it all depends.
Miami International has more than 11 miles of luggage belts, carrying an average of 35,000 bags a day.
This 777-300 just flew in from JFK fully loaded. That means it's carrying about 380 bags. On top of that, cargo.
We target for the most perfect scenario in getting bags to baggage claim within 20 minutes.
And how often does that happen?
63% of the time.
See why you're holding you.
Meanwhile, after a year of bad behavior in the skies and in the airports, another incident late yesterday here in Miami when police confronted an unruly passenger who they say took the keys to an airport golf cart. The situation escalating to the point the officer drew his gun. More than 5,600 cases of unruly passengers so far this year, with the nation's flight attendants asking the traveling public for patience and kindness.
But lately, we have been punching bags.
Airline passenger service workers now releasing a new public service announcement.
We're your friends, and we're trying to get you where you need to go.
So help us help you.
And that was Tom Costello reporting there. Let's get you to a traffic alert we just got in.
Yep, for the Big Island, we want to pass this along. Hawaii police are advising drivers to avoid Highway 19 near mile marker 13 because of a landslide near the Hilo side of the Honomu intersection. Now, officials say traffic will need to be detoured for at least the next 3 hours. And there's also apparently a tree across Old Mama Lahua Highway in the area of Church Gulch. So the only alternate detour at this time is Daniel K. Inouye Highway.
Taking a live look outside from our tower camera, looking pretty gloomy out there, and I'm hearing it's a little chilly outside as well. Here's Guy Hoggy with a look at your holiday forecast.
It's going to be a kind of a damp and breezy day today, but today starts the winter season, so we should have Hawaiian-style wintry weather. That means cool temperatures, scattered showers out there will be coming through the day from time to time for the leeward sides. More numerous showers will be affecting those windward areas, and that's for the next several days. Now, there's a couple of weather alerts, both having to do with the ocean. There is a high surf advisory for the new northeast swell. Advisory only for the east shores. Not a great swell because it's going to be bumpy here and not every spot picks it up. There's also a small craft advisory for all coastal waters because of the choppy conditions. So we've got these wintry conditions all the way through Friday with scattered showers, and there might even be some brief downpours out there. Flooding should not be too much of a concern because of the breezy winds, which will push the showers along very quickly. And then we've got that lighter winds with drier conditions heading in just in time for Christmas.
All right, thank you, Guy. And he just mentioned today is the first day of winter, and that's an important day. And I'm going to tell you why. A bunch of facts that I did not actually look up myself. It's December 21st, which marks the first day of winter. As I just said, it's the shortest day of the year, folks. So in the northern hemisphere, at least, as it tilts away from the sun. So the further you are north, the shorter your day will be. So for example, if you're in Fairbanks, Alaska, today you're only going to see 3 hours and 41 minutes of sunlight.
Wow.
Yikes. But don't worry, those days are going to get longer and longer as we move closer and closer to spring.
I need my sunshine.
Yeah, me too. I know it's a little cold out there today, but nothing like that video there we were looking at. What'd you find?
Well, it's been 20 years since Harry Potter first cast his magic on movie screens, and a new HBO Max special is reuniting the cast and crew as they look back at the original film, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and its record-breaking sequels based on the popular books. Now, the special, featuring Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint, will begin streaming on New Year's Day. HBO Max also confirms that the special will include comments from author-creator J.K. Rowling, who is currently in the middle of controversy for voicing anti-trans sentiments. Now, John and I, not Harry Potter people, but I know a lot of people who I respect who are.
Yeah, the closest I got is the Universal Studios in Japan.
Oh.
And I never even saw the movies, but it was fun.
You had some butterbeer.
Yeah, I did, actually.
Yeah.
One more story, and it's involving space.
Yeah, so SpaceX had another successful launch for NASA today, sending a 6,500-pound package on its way to the International Space Station. Now, the Dragon spacecraft will arrive at the ISS early tomorrow and to deliver research materials, hardware, and crew supplies, which includes Christmas presents and a special Christmas dinner of turkey, seafood, green beans, and fruit cake for the 7-member team. Now, with the year winding down, this marked the final launch of 2021 from the Kennedy Space Center.
Always fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yep, let's get to some good news now.
Right, so this might be the coldest and most extreme marathon on the planet. Runners from around the world began to run the Antarctica Ice Marathon. Here's Ian Lee with more.
If you looked up hardcore in the dictionary, don't be surprised if you see one of these runners. 62 people from 18 countries competed in a grueling, freezing, relentless marathon in Antarctica. Summed up,
that was brutal.
The race began just a few hundred miles from the South Pole. Runners trekked over soft snow in temperatures near zero. Here, participation trophies actually mean something.
It was never going to be easy coming to the coldest, windiest, highest and driest continent on the planet, but as much as it was brutal, it's also majestic. It's so beautiful.
But this frozen wonderland is disappearing. Higher temperatures are melting the continent's ice.
There's very little that we can do as humans to stop that process. All we can do is cut our carbon emissions as quickly as possible and reverse some of the changes we've seen due to climate change.
Meaning someday, the world's southernmost marathon might not be such a brutal badge of honor.
The consequence is that there's more ice getting into the ocean and sea levels are rising.
USA! Scientists warn we can't outrun the effects of climate change and need to take serious action to help the planet cool down. Ian Lee, CBS News.
So get this, 11 of those runners actually joined the 7-continent marathon club. So they've ran marathons on every continent. Very cool, right?
Yeah, that was a really small group, but I can imagine why.
It hurts to run when it's that cold.
Yeah.
It really does. It always makes my teeth hurt.
And on soft snow, oh my gosh.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
You guys, thanks for watching. This is now on this Tuesday. Are we getting closer and closer to Christmas? I think so. Can't wait. And we're going to be here all the way up until Thursday. No, this is now on Friday. Just a quick programming note there. But Ashley is going to be here at 4 today on KHNL. You don't want to miss that. A lot of news still developing throughout the day. And just one more reminder, sign up for our e-newsletters. Just go to your H&N digital platforms and you can sign up right there. Have a good one.
Aloha.